Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed and we are in the Sock and Jesus book, Dialogue in Heaven. You get to watch it when you die apparently. And we are covering, well, what would Socrates and Jesus talk about if they met in heaven to discuss, well, the effect of their life's work, whether or not they've lived a good life, and what has been the effect on mankind because of their life's work. As we are reading, we are wondering about not only the content, but the structure of the thinkers themselves. How does Socrates think? How does Socrates approach ideas? How does the conversation go? Is there a structure in the conversation? And is there a skill that Socrates has that allows him to lead the conversation in a productive manner? Because really we're hunting for the dialectic, which is of course the way that we use our minds and conversations to follow the logos. It's also, as we saw last time, the spiritual quest or the spiritual method or yoga, if you want to be fancy, because it's a kind of meditation. So somebody once asked Pierre before he died, is there a philosophy of meditation, or is there a meditation of philosophy? I think they also flipped it, and his answer was no, because philosophy is meditation. It's just better than the others because it also includes understanding. And that's what we're doing here. We are loving understanding. Philodianoia is the name of the art, or the name of the subject that we're doing. Oh no. Oh no. I was fiddling around. I fixed my mic thing. I think I just broke it again. Let me see if it comes back together. Not over my coffee. Let me pause. For now. Good enough for now. So, last time we talked about punishment versus learning, and how that reflects not only our individual lives, but our relationships and the meaning of life. So on every level, because that's analogy, if we are following the logos, then we are looking for principles that reflect every level of reality, allowing us to play with analogies. So just as in your life, you're not benefited by some jerk making you feel bad or inflicting violence upon you, that doesn't help you learn from your mistakes. The dialectic does. Or reflection with understanding on the root causes of the mistake, on the principles you may not have seen, or how you can apply those principles to better meet your needs or reach your highest goals. That's actually how we solve problems. The opposite is sadism, someone pretending to be knowing when actually they are cosplaying the knower by inflicting punishment, because that's all belief can do. And the example I like to point to is the dog nanny. Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer, can solve dogs' problems, but the dog nanny doesn't know how, and so sometimes she kills dogs because she blames the dogs, not her lack of understanding. Be a dog whisperer, don't be a dog nanny.
You've been a bad little girl and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now?
Is what the dog nanny would say. So, as for the individual, as same in your relationships with others. Do you desire to chimp people or catch people making a mistake as an excuse to be a sadistic believer, imitating the parental figure who taught you this was what it means to be knowing? Well, if you do, well, you are suffering from the very problem you have been born to address. Because we can apply this to another level, our soul's reincarnation. Just as that's stupid for relationships, the best kind of relationship encourages and creates the conditions for reason, self-reflection on causes and principles, so too, We are born to do that very thing. Our reincarnation into this physical world where we are ruled by believers, kings and clergy, and we grow up in a house where parents are compelled to pretend to be a knower when they don't know anything. They're just imitating belief. In other words, our world is run by injustice, belief and not understanding. Not everything. You can't be a believer and be a dentist or a mechanic or an architect or any other profession except for the people who desire the most control and to play out their false beliefs with impunity. Politicians and religious people. The two professions, along with parent, where you don't have to have understanding, you don't have to have a model. You can just say, well, I believe it, so it's true. Also, capitalism. I'm a billionaire, so my beliefs are true. Pretty sick stuff. So, that's not a punishment, but it is the implications of our previous souls' reincarnations. This is all a review from the book. As we have lived a life, becoming identified with a false image of ourselves, coming from a false belief, coming from a family clan upbringing, that becomes the mask that we identify with. It's also the root cause of our projection onto others, our interpretation, and our unjust responses to that interpretation. In other words, we spend a life becoming more entrenched in our false beliefs and self-image. That's the cause of our injustice towards ourselves and others. And as a result, we reincarnate again into this physical world. Says Socrates with Jesus in heaven. Now, let me just fix something here. I seem to be a little bit quiet. Is there a makeup game? I'll do it on my compressor. Add a little bit more volume here. It should be better. How about that? I think that should be better. Yep. So, not a punishment, but we do play out the implications and suffer a kind of life where we face the effects of the injustice that our previous lives have caused. Now, that's not justice unless it also involves a kind of learning that we can go through to avoid the bad and get the good. Therefore, what we're really here to do is see that there are implications and consequences from how we act, not beat ourselves up, not beat other people up, because that's further injustice. We are going to pay the price for that collectively and individually, but instead to recognize we are here to do a special kind of learning that can address the causes of human problems. That's called philosophical midwifery and the dialectic. What Socrates has been pointing to is you can't fully do that without also doing dream analysis. The same dialectic that is a systematic series of steps of reflection, guided reflection, we can also apply to our dreams. That's dream analysis. So, not only is punishment stupid and prevents learning, it's a kind of injustice that you will be punished for. Now, that's a joke. You won't be punished for it, but it is an injustice that you will have to suffer the effects from. As a kind of cause and effect balance, so long as you, so long as you don't go through a learning process on what's compelling you to inflict suffering on other people. Have you ever learned anything by, did you ever do your math better when some bastard was hurting you? Or putting you down, or embarrassing you, or putting you in a state of suffering? In fact, what we see is the only thing people learn from punishment is to avoid getting caught. So, this applies to our relationships as well, and we had a chatter last time to ask this question in chat about their relationships, and because that's the logos, it reflects every level or dimension. We can use analogy to apply what we learn metaphysically to every other thing else. So our chatter's question about, should I punish my friend's partner for doing a bad thing? And the answer is, of course, well, it's always the same. Are you open to reflection on its cause so you can get better? Learn. Find the reason why this action was the best solution you had so far learnt, but it's a sort of solution that may have worked in the conditions of your childhood, but no longer apply. Also, we can see that given that it's tied to a self-image, is a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. In other words, the false image of ourselves that we're here to uncover and address kickstarts our dramas, but also it's how it ends. You end up feeling or confirming, oh, I guess I was that person all along. I guess I sucked all along. I guess I was right all along. So that underlying image of yourself and feeling state is how it ends and how it starts, making the false image of the self the first and final cause of fate or people who are trapped in their problems, but also because there is a beauty to the logos that's reflected in the positive. What we're after is, once we're free of that false image of the self, we can discover that, hang on a second, the first cause of reality is the self. But that's interesting, because isn't that the goal? Isn't that the goal Socrates has been talking about? To know and show the self, the real self, your authentic self, making it the actual first and final cause. So our problems is a kind of reflection, a distorted reflection of truth, which is interesting. That's where we are. And we also looked at the lineage from Homer, where we got dream analysis and midwifery as a part of the background of the philosophers. The earliest philosopher we have a writing from, Xenophanes, who said it was the whole of God that sees and hears. That question has been updated. What is the whole of seeing, hearing, and thinking right now? He taught Parmenides and the female teacher Diotima. Parmenides and Diotima taught Socrates. Socrates taught Plato. Plato lost midwifery and dream analysis because we killed his teacher in front of him when he was young. So he wasn't able to midwife Aristotle, who then lost metaphysics, real philosophy. And that became materialism and the Roman tradition of modern philosophy, a love of opinions and debate, ignorance, conflict, love of the body, and wealth and fame. That's our current society and mainstream modern philosophers. But after Plato, so that's Aristotle was kicked out from the academy because he wasn't able to overcome his problems. Proclus, Plotinus, and Damascus added to Plato, added to our understanding of the dialectic. Of course, still lacking midwifery and dream analysis. And then after that came the Christian Emperor Justinian, who in 529 ended philosophy, shut down the academy, burnt the libraries, and brought in the Dark Ages. That is the tradition that we are currently in. The people in charge are religious people, following the Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, that have a common ancestor, Abraham, and a common root analogy, as Abraham was instructed to kill what he loves, and a person, his son, so too are modern religious people instructed to kill who they are told to kill, so long as they say God wants it. So those are the people in charge, and of course, many of them follow Paul. Modern Christians don't actually listen to Jesus, they listen to Paul, because he spoke against understanding and for personal beliefs and put himself above Jesus, claiming to speak for Jesus when really just passing on his own ignorance. And of course, that's every priest that you've ever met, and every evangelist you've ever met, and every billionaire you've ever met, and pretty much every politician. So it's the same old bullshit. The need to project, or the impulse for human souls to project their own personal false beliefs and injustice into whatever else is there. Which is why it's taken us 2,500 years to rediscover the Logos. It took that long for someone to rediscover philosophical midwifery and dream analysis, the skill of discovering and removing those beliefs. So we had a philosopher who was not compelled to project his beliefs onto things. That was Dr. Pierre Grimes. So we have reclaimed the dialectic after this lineage, and Aristotle and the Christianity taking over, the Romans taking over, killing the Greek tradition. But we can rediscover it, giving us all 4 aspects of the dialectic we are here to master. Knowing the truth, removing the false, philosophy and dream analysis, philosophy and midwifery. Dream analysis is needed for both, and of course the 4th thing is sharing it. And thankfully we have someone who's done that, because we are reading this. It's taken us 2,500 years, but we can do it now. So, if you're watching this, you have been born into a really curious part of history, giving us what we need to solve individual problems and our collective problems. All of this is a review of what we've been reading, because holy fuck, this book is amazing. So that's where we are. And I think we're going to get into Parmenides right before Socrates. He outlines the dialectic to Socrates, and he says, hey, by the way, if you don't use the dialectic, you'll never find truth. And be aware of the greatest problem of the human soul, giving up on the logos, giving up on the dialectic. Don't ever do that. And so Plato talked about the dialectic. These 3 added to the tradition. So especially Proclus, he really laid out the steps of the dialectic. That gave us these 4. Definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion. Synthesis and analysis, 2 parts of conclusion. See, 4 steps, that's all. So, 4 steps of the dialectic, 4 applications of the dialectic, 4 cognitive functions that we can move through. Strict dualists, there is no principles, there is no truth, everything is opinion. Number 5. The bottom, belief, and then understanding, and then knowing. There we go. Leading to the one that we're after, which is beyond even knowing the self. So 4 stages of cognition that we can move through before we reach the self. The dialectic has 4 parts. There are 4 applications of it. Lots of 4s. But ultimately, the dialectic has 2 halves. You have to apply those 4 steps to what if something exists and what if it doesn't. Just as we can apply the dialectic to the truth and to removing what's false. So the root, first and final cause of human problems is a false image of the self that we call a pathologos. And the first and final cause of our highest excellence is the actual self. Pretty neat, huh? How beautiful it is, how symmetrical it is, how simple it is. But of course, if you say something true that's simple and you say it clearly, there is that old problem that Socrates says, people won't understand it. But we'll say it anyway, and we'll do our best to make it as clear as we can, because what else are we going to do? In fact, this is the reason we're here. So even if no one listens or no one understands, at least we are doing our work. We are mastering, learning, and nurturing the art of the dialectic into our souls, which is what we've been born to do. It's our win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
So, that's where we are. Let's keep reading. Here's the book. Where are we in the book? Oh my god, we've read so much. We're so smart. Look how smart we are. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, look how smart we are. My god, this keeps going. We've read all this. Doing so good. Here we are. Jesus, you mention Parmenides quite often. That leads me to ask you, if he had a teacher, who was the teacher of Parmenides, the teacher of Socrates? Xenophanes of Colophon was his teacher, and it was he who held that God is one. He said that it is the whole of God that sees, hears, and thinks. There were those who sought to see that very thing in themselves. They went around and asked themselves those very things. And it was this that brought them to philosophy. Staying with these sayings throughout their life, they came to see that the mystery behind those sayings can be realized. And in that realization, they saw what must be seen. All right. Staying with these sayings throughout their life, they came to see that the mystery behind those sayings can actually be realized. And in that realization, they saw what must be seen. He started what Parmenides developed into a very profound system of thought. Xenophanes started what Parmenides developed. It became the object of contemplation for many. Ooh. Yes, it is good. I would enjoy seeing how Plato's Parmenides, and by the way, read the Balboa translation. You can find a copy Balboa online, because it's the only translation with any of the keywords translated accurately. Which is why we say if you ain't reading the Balboa, you're not reading Plato. Don't tell anyone that. Well, no, yeah, tell your friends. I was going to say don't tell anyone that because people don't like to hear it, but we don't have time to play around. It's just one of the things the author of this book said, oh, well, we just have to share it now. And it was in this book. There's no time for esoteric traditions. You don't have time. Just tell the truth. We would enjoy seeing how Plato's Parmenides can be used to both open up this problem and through it to see its possible solution. What problem? Is God one, and is it the whole of God that is seeing, hearing, and thinking right now? First, then, we shall agree that there is something in human beings that not only has life, but also something within that ponders, reflects, and is aware of itself. Right? I ask that because since it has those ways of being, it can also act and do what it does, and so achieves what it can. So there are qualities to our psyche or soul: pondering, reflecting, self-awareness, allowing us to act according to that reflection and pondering, and achieving what we want to achieve, what we can achieve. Sure thing. I can go along with that. What else do you need to go further? Well, it allows us to say that within man there is something that can revert upon itself, and from that an activity can emerge. Or simply, we can say that the mark of being a living person is to have this. The mark of being a living person is to have this power of reversion. Right. The mark of being a living The mark of being a living person is to have this power of reversion. So the mark of being a what? A living person, is to have this power of reversion, as well as the ability to act. This is what it means to be alive. Power reverting upon yourself and the ability to act. The more philosophical way of saying this is that it's this distinctive mark of the soul of man is what the Greeks call ousia.
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
That one's perfect.
You're going around doing that in the weirdo pool. Well, you're doing your best. He better not.
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
Ousia. So the soul of man's distinctive mark is ousia, or substance and activity. So we've been talking about ousia with reference to the light of being. Look for some, here we go. We experience the physical world through our physical senses, the world of becoming. We experience the metaphysical world or the spiritual world through the sense of ousia. But he is saying, hey, not only is it a sense, well, he's not saying the sense part, the eye of the soul part. He's saying it's a substance. It's the substance of soul. It's also the substance of mind, but it's also an activity. So mind is turning about upon itself at all times to know itself. That's its substance and its activity. That's what we awaken in excellence and in our highest goals and the dialectic. We're reflecting upon ourselves the nature of mind and self in the dialectic. That's the activity of ousia. That may bring you to the gateway of the substance of ousia. Ousia, or substance and activity. Again, we should say that this idea of activity must include an activity that manifests the fullest flowering of the human spirit or soul. So if there are activities, there has to be an excellence. The fullest flowering. Now, the fullest flowering is also the same word for hyparxis, or the top of whatever level. So if we are doing philomathesis, love of learning in the physical world, what's the highest? What's the fullest flowering of learning? Well, it's the dialectic, isn't it? The best thing you can learn. It's what solves problems, and it's what brings excellence. It also takes us to this new kind of way of being. But even there has to have a highest of ousia. So this ousia activity of turning around and also knowing oneself has to have a highest. There has to be an excellence here. Hyparxis, or fullest flowering. That's also a transition to the next level. So the top of one level is the bottom of the next. So whatever is in the top of being comes with us to the south. So that's the three questions we have. How does the self cause being, and how does the being cause the physical world? And third, how do we revert? And that activity of ousia, the essence and activity of the soul, has a fullest flowering. So I'm anticipating, I'm guessing, the book might go on and say that's how we return. And why we have to be pursuing excellence to be in this game. Because that fullest flowering is excellence. Gotta find a way of sitting. Moving my fan. Moving my fan. This activity of ousia must include an activity that's manifests the fullest flowering of the human spirit or soul. Now we need to see these two ideas in the study of the nature of dreams. And to do that, we should first explore the dynamics of dreams. Holy shit! Wow.
The primary purpose of pools is not to murder. It is for enjoyment and cooling off.
Wow. Why wow? Well, because we've been saying well, Socrates has been saying time and time again, dreams, we've lost the significance of dreams. The self talks to, or God or self talks to Socrates through dreams. Gets guidance through dreams. Dreams are necessary for philosophy and midwifery. Dreams. But we don't have a book on dream analysis. All we know is it's likely going to reflect the same dialectic we learn in philosophy and dream and midwifery. We do have the midwifery book. So now we can look at the nature of dreams. So we need to see these two ideas in the study of two ideas. What ideas? Substance and activity, which includes a fullest flowering, in the nature of dreams, and the dynamics of dreams. That would be the nature and activity. The ousia's nature and the ousia's activity or dynamics. Hooray, we might get dream analysis. That'd be neat. Again, says Jesus, I like the way you're going. You separate the dynamics of dreams from the nature of dreams. Good. You can... Oh shit, I did it again. Stop playing with my mics. The dynamics of dreams from the nature of dreams. Good. You could explain what you're about to do, but I wonder if you would take me along the path through dialogue. So instead of explaining it, let's do this dialectic, baby. I would appreciate that because taking each step along the way will allow me the chance to reflect and to see it for myself. So again, we're seeing that the dialectic is what we're here to do, but debate or oppression or violence or punishment or making people feel bad through ideas of sin and hell is the cause of, well, the tools of human suffering and ignorance. So this is, we're really seeing it in parts here. If we can go through step by step in reason reflection through dialogue, we can ousia, reflect, which allows us to have the activity of seeing it for ourselves. It's a win-win.
Win.
If so, could you say something about your use of the idea of dreams as having a nature? My back's really sore today. Good question there, Jesus, says Socrates. Good question there, Jesus. To answer it requires we take a dialogical trip into what is common to all dreams. Since we have discussed dreams before, can we now say that dreams show a kind of unusual intelligence? So let's keep an eye on this dialectical structure. So we've discussed it before, picking up where we left off, beginning with a question that we can agree on, or opening question. Do dreams show a kind of intelligence? From what you have said, I would say that if dreams are reflected upon in a non-interpretive way, dialectic, wow, then they show a pattern of being part of a rational order. So, non-interpretive, it's not dream interpretation. It's not like a book or a website or a BuzzFeed article. If you dream about kittens, it means your man is going to blah, 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 blah. Nope. non-interpretive, but we can show that there's a pattern which shows that it's part of a rational order. The rational order itself is the logos. Does it appear to you that the dream comes at the right time? Right at the right time. For the dreamer to reflect and learn from. So again, right time for the dreamer. For what? To punish the dreamer with a nightmare? Nope. For reflection and learning. Further, what kind of knowledge must the dream maker have for each dreamer to have the dream to match the spiritual life of the dreamer? So, dreams match the spiritual life of the dreamer. That's important. And if the dream maker can craft it, so let's highlight dream maker. If the dream maker crafts your dreams in a way that matches it to your spiritual life and spiritual development, what kind of knowledge must the dream maker have? I like those questions, says Jesus, because it causes me to reflect back upon the meaning of what you have said about dreams. From what we have agreed to, I can only say that the dream maker must have an intimate knowledge of the problems the dreamer faces. Wow. Holy shit. Did you know that your dreams are from some dude or dudette that has an intimate knowledge of the problems you face, as well as your spiritual destiny? Did you know that? Even when the dreamer is not aware of the kind of problem they are facing. So it's aware of things that even when the dreamer is not aware. So what can I say but that the maker of dreams far excels the intelligence of the dreamer? So, you're going to spend your day following your own bullshit opinions and beliefs, or you're going to listen to your dream maker, considering your dream maker's intelligence far excels you, the dreamer. What I find intriguing is the beauty of the simplicity of dream messages. We've talked about this. We've talked about the anagogic triad, or the way we make that movement up is the anagogic or upward moving triad of gods. Wish I could copy on this board because I have to go so far back to find them. Here we go, the anagogic triad. Hermes is the goal, the dialectic. That's what we're here to master. That's the method. But to get into it, we have to be inspired. Individually, we get to do Apollo, read these books, reason, understanding, a text that reflects the logos. But then we do this ousia that we've been talking about to reflect on them in a certain kind of way, dialectic ultimately, to see how the pieces come together in a beautiful whole. It's that beauty that turns something dry and dusty into something inspiring and meaningful, the most meaningful. So Apollo and Aphrodite have to hold hands, and together they take you to Hermes. And we've talked about how people can inspire others by being rational, by reflecting a reasoned pattern or harmony, reasoning order, but also being able to bring it together into a whole. It's the simplicity of the whole and the ordering of the parts that inspires us. So for me, when I play music, I have to play something that follows a harmonious order and bring it together in a kind of beautiful simplicity, reflecting an idea. And then people will come along and say, how long have you been playing guitar? And I have to do my best to say, you know what? It's not a time thing. It's a transcending time thing. Because what I'm doing when I'm playing guitar is, do you notice there's a harmony? So hopefully ask questions if they're open to it. Was it beautiful when it came together? Therefore, as Jesus has just said, they are part of a pattern of, put it in pink so I can see it, a pattern of being part of a rational order. Here we go. Pattern of being part of a rational order. So if you want to enjoy music in a similar way, and that's why you're asking how long I've been playing, what you're awakening yourself to is the rational order that exists that music participates in. Hey, by the way, have you noticed that our stages of conversation and the questions and answers you've gone also reflects an order? And I might even be able to repeat this order to another person who comes along and is inspired by the beauty and the rationality, or the beauty and the harmony. Therefore, can we say this conversation is itself simple and yet rationally ordered? You know what that's called? And by the way, could we use this as a model or paradigm for any reflection on things that reflect beauty and harmony, or order and wholeness? Like your soul, your mind, yourself, your life, your excellence. That's called, the name for this kind of order and wholeness, or Apollo and Aphrodite, harmony and beauty, that we are engaged in right now, is Hermes, the dialectic. And there are other people who do this with not with music, but with their thinking. They reflect on ideas, understand the parts, see an underlying principle and cause, see how that underlying cause or preconditions and principles reflect the manifestation or the actions, and we can trace from those principles and causes to their manifestations and actions into their conclusion, and present those steps as a beautiful whole. And some people who hear it might be inspired. Wow, you brought those pieces together and you presented them in a beautiful way. I am inspired by the simplicity of the whole, the beauty of the simplicity and the harmony of the order. And then she can say, well, you know what that's called? Dialectic, baby. Music, whatever it is. So that's something from earlier in the text, because part of our job as a dialectician is to share it. So here we're focusing on the dream analysis part, but the final part is sharing it. How can you share it with others? So that's from earlier in the book. And we can even have a look. If I do a word search for simple, no, not simple. Simplicity. Here we go. Yep. Simplicity. 109. Socrates said something. What did Socrates say? Speaking of those triads of gods, there are three fundamental ideas have three modes of expressing themselves. Existence. So he said, hey, look, for every living thing, there must be an activity, a power, and an existence. So being or existence, a power of vitality, and an activity. But all those three principles must themselves, existence must exist with a power and activity to allow things to exist. Power must have an existence and a power and activity. Activity has to have an existence, power, and activity. And fourth, there must be something preserving this that has its own existence, power, and activity, giving us the four gods that we were just talking about. We were looking at the anagogic or activity one. The existence or the highest or fullest flowering is the dialectic or Hermes. The power is Apollo. The power is Aphrodite. The activity is Apollo. Those are the three gods for that. And Jesus says, wow, each of these 12 principles, there must be a Hellenic god. That is astonishing. Socrates says, tell me, what is it that you find, what is it you say is astonishing? It's beautiful in its simplicity, Aphrodite, and it's ordered in its structure, harmony or Apollo, and we can call that rationality. The rationality of the ordering of its parts. So, and then they go on to say, hey, that's how come you can inspire others, because that's Apollo and Aphrodite. Can you use it in what you do? And can you get people to reflect that it may be the dialectic that's the fullest flowering of Aphrodite and Apollo? So that's from earlier. But now, what I find intriguing, says Jesus, is the beauty of the simplicity. So he's used this term before, beauty of simplicity. That's what we just looked at. Of the dream messages. It condenses so much in a few sentences and with just a few images. It is very insightful and beautiful the way the dream maker fashions the dreams. So in dream analysis, you can do quite a lot from just a few. If you can only remember a few sentences or a few images of your dream, you can still get so much from them because of how profound they are. Yeah, it's good enough. How rich, how the whole is reflected through each of the parts. Some people call that holographic. Apparently in holograms, you can take a part of a hologram and you blow it up and the whole thing is there. I don't get how that works, but apparently it's a thing. Something to do with fractals. Yes! Yes, Jesus! Yes! It has all of those features. And yet another remarkable dimension is present in dreams. It is through the power of dreams that the dreamer is brought to make connections between, here we go, that's what we're after. His or her present problem and its roots in early childhood experiences.
Okay, go ahead.
Our past informs our present and dictates our future. With our problem. Now you can say that once we're free of our problem, we could say that the first cause, or the self, is what's going through the present to discover itself through the self logos, the intelligible, what's the word? The pattern of rational order inherent in the self is reflected in experience of being and through time in understanding. So the first cause, or the original past, is also the cause, has an inherent self-logos, so self-rationality, self, not just reason, but I'll use the word logos. There's a self-logos inherent in the self that plays out in the present with you, a self, waking up to your highest functioning with Apollo and Aphrodite, ordered parts that can be harmonized into a beautiful and simple whole, the dialectic, Hermes, the two together. So it's the self in the present, making use or waking up to the self logos through the dialectic to return to your future highest goal, to return to the source. with this art in your back pocket. So having gone through this journey, you gain something, which is a kind of answer to, hang on a second, if it's the first and final cause, why create? One answer might be, well, we return with an art in our back pocket. Just as last time we looked at the first and final cause, our past childhood experience is reflected in our present problem. And we could add the future to that if we wanted to. And so it's through dream analysis that the dreamer makes the connections using the power of dreams. Socrates. Dreams also often include scenes of high and low states of mind or emotional states. In exploring the high states, the full content becomes visible, surfacing the present of more profound states of mind of the dream. So one way of going in dream analysis is exploring high states, which means you're seeing the parts, making the connections. So the full content becomes visible, which is a activity that surfaces the more profound states of mind of the dream. So in this reflection upon the high states that you experience in the dream that you might have ignored or forgotten or not recognized, you can resurface them in the present through dream analysis, making dream analysis a spiritual method. Recreating or re-experiencing the spiritual, potentially spiritual or high states, whatever they happen to be, in the dream. Isn't that neat?
Wow. 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 Wow.
Wow.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but we'll see.
All checks out.
All checks out. In Socrates. In a similar way, opening up the low states can bring the dreamer to find parallels to that experience in the dreamer's past. So opening up the low states, exploring the low states of mind can make you, so while it's interesting because we've been saying, hey, you know what dreams do? You know what dreams do? They're needed for both your reading or your spirit, your philosophy, understanding of the true, and for your removal of the false. So you can open up the high states to re-experience and explore your more profound states of the truth of self and reality, or you could open up the low states to make a connection, make the necessary understanding-based connections between your problems in the present to your childhood past experiences that are its root cause. So you can open up the highs or the lows, the ups or the downs, the pluses or the minuses, because you can even graph the movement of those high and low states of mind in the dream. Here, like this. Go wee, wee, wee. I want to look at this one or this one. It's one way of going. There are lots of ways of going with dreams because they're so rich and profound.
It's a total shit show. I'm cute. Like, it's cutie pie.
Talking about a bunch of slop.
No relevance to those drops. I just need to push a button for my dramatic zoom. In opening the low states, one can bring the dreamer to find parallels to that experience in the dream from the dreamer's past. In recalling the dreamer is given the opportunity to recall additional material that the dreamer has forgotten. This is a very important thing, and I have gone through troubles So as you do dream analysis, you write it out as best you can, but in that reflection, you might recall parts that you haven't written down or you forgot about, but you're bringing them to light in the reflection. I had a particularly terrible dream analysis experience where that opportunity was not afforded to me, and I was just piled on. I was very confused because it's a fundamental principle of dream analysis. Now, in this particular example, I wasn't even doing that, so I was just helping them see clearly what they were not reading. But they said, oh no, you can't do that. Oh no, you're wrong. I said, no, I'm not wrong, it's my dream. No, it's not saying that there. It is saying that there. You can read it. But even if it isn't, there is a principle where in the recollection of the dreamer has the opportunity to recall additional material that you may have neglected or forgotten when you wrote it down. So even if I was changing it, which I wasn't, it's still a principle. But I think the fact that it wasn't even that should have told me that this dream analysis isn't going to go well. Because it wasn't just that they were ignoring the principle, it was prior to that they weren't even reading what was written down. And if you're not reading what was written down, then you're interpreting. And dream analysis is non-interpretive. Right there. Non-interpretive. Which is a difficulty. You need to make sure that the person is very familiar with the principles of dream analysis, including the idea that so long as they consider dream analysis meaningful, and they should if they're doing it, their own problems will manifest. So there are principles in place for, hey, if you're blocked, you need to be open to that. You need to listen. You can't, and if you're breaking any of the principles, that's a red flag. If you're telling the dreamer to shut up or shutting them down or ignoring what they're saying, all of that kind of shit, or piling on, or you notice other people in the group are just eager to jump in with their sickness, their pathologos, because they're seeing it as an opportunity to play their pathologos Noah, not as a possibility of being open to the unfolding patterns of the dream itself. Or if you see them coming in with their own previously held beliefs about what they think your issue is, that's bullshit. That's not dream analysis. That's projection or interpretation. So if you notice that happening, you have to recognize, oh, these are red flags. Not to punish me or feel bad, but to realize, oh, the person doing the dialectic, leading the conversation, has their pathologos come up. And no shit, of course it will come up. It's the most meaningful activity because it hits both the other two meaningful things. Seeking the truth about self and reality and understanding, removing the false beliefs and the false image and about the self. Dreams hit both of them, so it's the most meaningful. So it's going to surface your stuff. It will. Which is why we have things that you can do, like you write it down and you reflect on it, and then you can approach a different scene, or if that's what's happening to a high state, you can approach a low state. In other words, there are ways of sidestepping the pathologos temporarily, or you can be the dialectician for the dreamer. If the dialectician's problem's coming up, you can switch roles and midwife them. Hey, what's coming on? What's happening to you there? Why are you getting aggressive? Dream analysis isn't about that. Why are you not reading what's on the page? It's important. Why are you shutting down the dreamer? Why are you not letting me do this principle we've just read? Recall other material. That's a principle. So if you're breaking a principle, not listening to the words, abusing the dreamer, you're breaking the fundamental principles of dream analysis, which means, what's your state of mind? What's going on? Now, there is a danger that if they are so far in their problem that they are now blind from the principles of the Logos, then you have to take a break or bring in a third party. That's why it's important to learn the principles and develop the courage and character and integrity, as well as going through it. And yeah, even the best of them have had these problems. So it's a universal human thing. It's not something that we have to blame people about. It does suck when there is a leader doing it, because that can be a opportunity for all of the others to jump on board with the leader, which is of course the pathologos. Our beliefs are not based on the Logos, they're based on following the false beliefs and way of being of the leader. So in dynamics where there's a leader, be it Trump or Hitler or anyone else, there is an opportunity that people go, oh, Trump's breaking the law. That means we can all break the law. We can all put on masks and murder brown people and just throw children, go to schools and kidnap brown children. Because our leader is a racist criminal, murderer. He's murdering these people overseas without due process. He's dropping bombs on shipping boats in other countries. Oh, and he's not accounting for his sexual crimes. Doesn't have to reflect and solve his problems. All right, I think I'm back. I was disconnected. Funny that. So yeah, that's a danger that because it's so meaningful and because there is a kind of, now the dialectic is what's leading. The Logos leads. As Socrates follows principles of the Logos through the dialectic, so too do we do that with the dreams. You don't bring in your previously held beliefs or opinions, and you don't use it as an opportunity to play out your pathologos. You're not the knower, you're the guide. Two different things. Very important. And of course, before I was cut off, I said, hey, by the way, if you don't do it, there is an opportunity for people who are present to follow dear leader. If he's piling on, then we get to. Now, it's not a blame game, that's an understanding. The fact that this happens, that when Trump breaks the law, all of the MAGA people feel like they can break the law. It's not a blame game, but it's important that we understand how and why it happens, so we don't fall victim to that injustice and we can address the injustice of others in a fair way. So all of this is why it's very, very important to understand the principles of dream analysis, considering it's the most important thing you can do, meaning you should be doing it, and second, it's going to challenge your false beliefs. Because the more meaningful the activity, the more likely it will trigger you. How are we for time? Okay, let's read a little bit further. I got a meeting to get to today. So, one such principle that's important for us to nail down is, in recalling the dreamer is given the opportunity to recall any additional material that they may have forgotten. And if you've reflected on your dream, you might go, oh yeah, I completely forgot that whole thing that happened there. Jesus. Where are you, Jesus? You are bringing the Logos to dreams. That's what we're doing, aren't we? We're bringing the Logos and the dialectic to dreams. So this is the way you uncover enlightenment experiences that have been forgotten. Wow. See, I didn't read ahead. I could foresee it. I mean, yeah, I'm just push the implications. That's the Logos. You can uncover enlightenment experiences that have been forgotten or been ignored by the dreamer. Ah, how cool is that? You may be having enlightenment experiences in your dream, but without dream analysis. It is one thing to have the taste of enlightenment and another to be in full union with it. Interesting. So this might be the difference between enlightenment experiences people can have and that state that Hercules is in, feasting with the gods at all times, even while simultaneously dealing with the shadows in Hades. To be in full union with enlightenment. Upon analysis, the briefest state could have easily been overlooked and can bring insight into the nature of the self and reality. Ooh.
Cute. Like, they're secretly turned on by it.
Wow. That's not appropriate, Emma.
It's sad. And I'm sad for you.
I'm sad for you. So, even the briefest state can bring insight into the nature of self and reality. Wow. Is that what we're here to do? Are you a part of a reality? Do you want to know where it is? What it is? The highest reach of it? Hey, are you a self? Curious as to what that is? Aren't these the two most fundamental and important things for us to become aware of? In the... what's the word? Should put it in pink. The fullest, highest or fullest flowering of self and reality. To remain in that state and discover its depth brings the mind to realize why it is the pure light of divine luminosity is a dynamic presence. The dynamic, as we both know, is the mind turning upon itself. Wow. So we want to remain in that state and discover its depth, and that will bring the mind that you participate in to realize why the pure light of divine luminosity is a dynamic presence. Ooh. Because it's the mind turning upon itself. So this pure light of being experience we've been talking about time and time again, both Jeebus and Socrates claim to have had it. Yeah, we want to stay in it, discover its depth, and you realize that it is a dynamic. Well, it's a oneness, it's a kind of motion. I hear that there's a new meme. Well, I don't know how fucking stupid and cringe did I just sound? I have just heard cool people saying, hey, she's got no motion. I only just come across it because it's cutting edge and I only hang out with the coolest people. She's got motion. And if you don't have motion, you are a cuck.
Freaks. I've been a bad little girl. That's anti-feminist in some way.
In some way it is.
I don't know if you know this, but like weird dudes exist everywhere.
Hey, that sounded like a personal attack.
I'm a real living being.
Yeah, I'm a real living being. Don't say that. So, dynamic motion. This is motion itself. There's a dynamic process, presence of mind knowing itself in the highest way. So mind's turning upon itself in that luminosity. Isn't that neat? Some of the powers of mind can then be unfolded and expressed. So not only do we experience it, we got to unpack it, unfold it, express it. Yes, it is as you say, and wondrous it is to be sharing it and exploring its depth. Truly, it is a bountiful gift beyond all else. For the mind to know itself through dreams is remarkable, as is the depth of knowledge it transmits. Wow. It is as you say, for the dream maker has an astonishing knowledge of the dreamer. It must know the spiritual path and what stage there is a path, and what stage there are stages of that path the dreamer is in for the dream to have the impact it has. The dream maker must have, as it were, a spiritual map. There is a map. You can understand humanity, our problems, our development, our path, states of mind, states of enlightenment. There is a map, and our dream maker has it. So you can know where people are at, so how can you best address them? Have the most impact. The dream maker must have, as it were, a spiritual map within which to fix each soul's struggle and know what is needed to bring the dreamer to realize the blocks they face. Wow, holy crap. Dreams have all that. Knowing your spiritual path, know the map of the spiritual path, know what stage you're on, knows how your specific struggles you are facing as a soul is because of that stage. It can be fixed to that stage that you're on. It knows what you need to solve your problems, realize the blocks you face, and, well, presumably make the next step on that journey. Holy crap, all of that's in dreams. Wow. You can be, dreams will therefore, so the dream maker therefore has to know your problems and how your problems reflect your stages of development, but also how equally so on each stage you have those two things. You have your problem and you have your potential high states you can experience. You can explore those high states, have enlightenment experiences re-experienced in dream analysis, only it's better because you not only get to experience it, you get to reflect on it, understand its parts. As he says, you can unfold and express the powers of that experience, because experiences are temporary, understanding is what we can take with us. So it's an enlightenment experience as well as a profound learning experience. Equally so, exploring the low states within the dynamics and the aspects and parts of dreams can, well, bring you a learning and insight into your problems. And isn't it interesting that there is an intelligence that communicates with you every time you sleep, that's doing its best to convey those things and convey them most appropriately to you in a way that can have the most benefit and impact. Holy fuck, dream analysis must be super significant. Holy crap. Let's think on that for today, so that when we come back, we'll be super duper inspired to learn much more about how we can unpack the logos of dream analysis. Non-interpretive, with principles that we have to be aware of, because if it's the most meaningful thing, it's going to trigger our problems. So we better nail down those principles, but also learn how we can unpack the Dream Master and use it for our most benefit, for ourselves and for anyone else who wants to listen and play. Seeing as it's what we're here for. To ignore half of our life, or a third of our life, however long we're asleep, would be ridiculous. And considering the intelligence of the Dream Maker far outreaches our current intelligence, well, it would be insane to ignore our dreams. So, let's take everything we've been learning about this, the logos, the dialectic, benefit, the fact that we're here to master the dialectic, and that we're here to do two things: remove pseudo-excellence and reach excellence, or remove our pathologos and master the logos, remove injustice, master justice. It's always those two things. So let's apply the dialectic to the dreams and see how we can get that skill in our back pocket and benefit the most in our life and be the best kinds of people to the people that we care about. Let's do that next time. Feel free to follow on Twitch and YouTube, and you can join the Discord. There's a link to the text below. If you want to donate to the channel, that is greatly appreciated. There is a link below, and I'll see you in the next one.